listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk, Bobcat, Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting in an actual free state, Nof, Idaho. It's grand. It's lovely. I love it. I happen to be your conservative Sherpa, guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. That's me. Disclaimer, as per normal, what you're about to hear for the next hour, maybe 2 hours, consists of my opinion and my opinion only, which I happen to buttress with articles and videos. But you know that already, don't you? I am doing the job that the American media maggots refuse to do. I am fundamentally changing America one leftist diaper at a time. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversations. We are still serving stiff drinks here in the saloon, along with facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, clarity, context, tradition, and common sense for normal people like you and me, not the insane people on the other side, on the blue stamp, on the blue edge, on the flat earth, ready to fall off. No, not them. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon, where the speech, she is free, but the booze, she is not. Now, would it surprise you to think that I might have some potato water in here? That could be. I am streaming live right now on a whole host of different placios, that's places. I am on Apple Podcasts, on Facebook Live, on KLRN Radio right now, and welcome to all the people from KLRN Radio. Twitch, I'm on Rumble, and I'm on YouTube, the SHR Media YouTube channel. And if you would, pretty please, kindly, if I would ask, maybe with some butter on top and something like that, please subscribe to the SHR Media YouTube channel. We are a mere 50 subscribers away from 500. And boy, would we ever we'd love to be able to get to 500 subscribers. The big question is, can we do it now? This is Thursday. This happens to be my Thursday night show, April 22nd, the year of our Lord, 2025. Now, on the last show, Tuesday night, I had almost 200 people listening to me live. And that was ever so cool, ever so kind, ever so wonderful. I would love to have that occur. I never expect it, but it really is a very invigorating thing to know that people are watching and listening. Hey, look, Mission Ready Men is in the chat room. Thank you for being here. So, Sir Earl of Jackson. Also, the Lost Wanderer is here. And I stipulate, Your Honor, that all people who wander are not lost. And that is ever so true. Now, it's funny that, oh, shoot, you know what? Lost Wanderer, you're going to have to send me the information, probably in the chat room. But I also want to remember everybody remind everybody. I want to remember everybody. Sure, I'd love to remember everybody. I remember you and you and you and you. Okay, give me a break. I'm 75. I'm going quickly. Big mushroom cloud. Anyway, Earl right here has his very own show on SHR called Mission Ready Men. And that is on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He was on today. I was in his chat room. He was on Tuesday. I was in his chat room. But as opposed to the late night shows that SHR customarily features, he's an early morning kind of guy. Well, relatively early. He's on at 9 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Central and noon Eastern. And that's Mission Ready Men on Tuesdays and Thursdays right here on SHR. Now, this is interesting. I promoted the show. I said, hey, Jack Alexander, Refugee-In-Waiting. I'm going to have to change that show. I'm going to have to change that title because he is not here. And if I had a producer, you would have heard something like, but I don't have a producer. I am my own producer, and I don't have that sound effect available. So I made it myself. So he's not here. But wait, there's more. Because BZ always has more. BZ is always prepared for things just like this. So it shouldn't surprise you that I have a ton of things to show you, like, oh, gee, the trunk monkey.
Oh, hey! You little...
Uh-oh, trunk monkey.
The trunk monkey. The revolutionary idea you'll only find one place.
Where'd you find this place?
I'm going to save that for another time. I love the concept of the trunk monkey. And Ricky Robinson is in chat from KLRN. And while I'm here, let me run this. Always my greatest and grandest of thanks to Rick Robinson, who I believe may be running the show tonight live on @KLRN. On @KLRN. You know, we're told that Trump is not respected around the world. Isn't that right? Well, let's listen. Go.
Many white people are very upset with Mr. Trump. Do you want to know why they're so upset with Mr. Trump?
Why?
Because Mr. Trump is one of these Americans who shoots from the hip.
Yeah.
Or shoots from the lip. In other words,
shoot from the lip.
Whatever comes into his head, he says it. Politicians are not like that.
No.
You can sit a politician down in a studio for 3 hours and ask him 3 questions and you will never get an answer. Trump is not like that. Trump will blurt out the answer. That's why many white people, especially people in power, are very upset with Mr. Trump because he says what they think, but they will never say it. He just lets it all out. And these white people are embarrassed. Shut your mouth, they're saying. You are embarrassing us because he reveals the true way and the true heart. See, look, ask me a question.
Okay.
Would I prefer
how tall are you?
An enemy smiling in my face, sidling up to me and putting his arm around my shoulder, and then surreptitiously stabbing me in my back.
And that's how politics works. That's how everybody knows politics works. But as you customarily realize, at the beginning of my show, I have just sort of a consortium of all sorts of different things before we get into the proverbial meat of the matter. Here's another one. This is, if you're thinking, and you're a Democrat, that you're looking for today's great getaway, this would be it, would it not?
Welcome to El Salvador, home to breathtaking sunsets, world-class surf breaks, and gangbanger Kilmer Abrego Garcia.
Yeah.
El Salvador is the destination for Democrats seeking the thrill of bringing violent, criminal, illegal aliens back to America. Come witness Trump derangement syndrome in its purest form. From Chris Van Hollen to Cory Booker. You may even see John Ossoff. So what are you waiting for, Senate Democrats? Join your colleagues and step into the rhythm of rescue today.
It's true. What are you waiting for? Democrats get down there. Well, the Democrats apparently are getting down there in great droves, great style, great speed, great rapidity. I don't usually do this also, but I found something that I cannot say with 100% certainty is true, but I'm going to put it out there for you so that you can make the decision for yourself, because I trust all of you here as adults. This just came through. It's about appeal, A-P-E-E-L. But you know what? I'd rather be wrong on this and put it out there than not put it out there at all. What am I talking about?
PSA for anyone going to the grocery store. Yes, even natural health food stores. Next time you're in the produce aisle, please be on the lookout for this label. And whatever you do, do not go near it. Appeal, or EdAppeal, is a World Economic Forum and Bill Gates funded product that is being sprayed on fruits and vegetables, which are on the verge of spoiling, so that they
Oh, that's enough right there to make me say, oh, no fucking way.
appear fresh and last longer. Even more frightening is the fact that Appeal has been approved for use on USDA organic produce under the name OrganAppeal. The main ingredient found in the Appeal coating
Wait, listen.
is mono and diglycerides, which are extracted from grapeseed oil. This is then processed with the use of two solvents, which are ethyl acetate and heptane.
Because solvents are great for your interior, right?
Both of which are hazardous chemicals known to seriously damage internal organs. And
But they're good for your, your radiator in your car. Hey, what's good for your radiator is good for you.
Case of repeated exposure. This coating cannot be washed off. Additionally, the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer, or IARC, recognized glycidol, another name for these same ingredients, as, quote, probably carcinogenic to humans. So why are they spraying this literal poison on our food?
Wait, I bet she has the answer. And I bet it has to do with Bill Gates. And I bet it has something to do with globalists. And I bet I have a story later on for you tonight about something that's just damned insane, pushed by globalists, pushed by the UK, pushed by Bill Gates. When I tell you this, it will be another one of those what the fuck moments.
One thing is for certain. Appeal should be kept far, far away from our food supply.
Oh, yeah.
The ability of this $2 billion Bill Gates-backed startup to just quietly slip in to extend the life of food with absolutely zero proof of preserving any nutritional value should remind every American of the importance of eating organic, local, and chemical-free food. But if...
Okay, stop just for a second. If you're paying extra money for organic, just a little important safety tip from me to you in terms of you may be wasting money because frequent studies have indicated that orgasmic food is not necessarily better for you, but you will spend more money for it.
If the evidence here isn't enough to convince you, take a look at what Appeal allegedly does to the food itself.
When she opens it and she breaks it in half, it gets very tough and doesn't really break.
What
and when
hell?
It pulls, it's like it's glue.
Like, it's not even breaking, like, at all. Like, it, and I know you guys can't feel the texture, Avi, right? Because it's a video, but like, it literally feels fake.
Is it clear yet? The tyrannical globalists will stop at nothing to completely railroad anyone trying to live a wholesome, healthy life. They'll do anything to try and kill off the resistors who refuse to align with their dystopian, dismal future, where you'll be forced to eat bugs and own nothing and be happy. It's time to start growing your own food or buying food from your local farmer's market if you don't already. These megalomaniacs are on a mission to destroy all that is good in this life, and
And that's true. I would also state this. This is relatively new, and I'm sure some of you may be saying something similar to, where's RFK on this? To which I would reply, it may already be on his screen. So let's give RFK Jr. just a little bit of a break. And he may or may not respond to this. All I know at this point is what this report was on OAN. I have not gone further into a deeper dive to try to find out if RFK or the FDA or anybody else has a response to that. Also, Cheetah is in chat. Rick Robinson is in chat. As I indicated, Mission Ready Men is in chat. And hey, look, Mission Ready Men says, if you're not growing your own produce or getting it from a farmer's market, you're still getting all kinds of chemicals aside from this Gates poison. I would agree. Cheetah says, you bet. And Jack Alexander says, hello, I had connective issues. Connective issues or connective tissues? Let's look and see if this is Jack Alexander. Is it? One each? Jack Alexander?
Howdy, how we all doing? Sorry about that.
Well, that's all right. Mate, how you doing down there? Hey, I forgot one thing. I forgot this. I should have had this lined up. I apologize. Here we go.
It's a magical step into the future. Tomorrow's news today with Australia's Jack Alexander. Here in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
And so, welcome to Jack Alexander. I haven't spoken to Jack in quite some time. And the title of tonight's show is Jack Alexander, Refugee-In-Waiting. I have tons of material tonight. Starting out with, and Jack, if you haven't already heard his story, has a voluminous story about his history and trying to get into the United Snakes of America. Oh gosh, let me stop this. I want to put this up and, okay, I'm pandering. I'm catering. Probably lots of people have seen this, but this is just too weird and it's sourced too local for me to ignore. Go. Oh, geez. Unmute. Okay, go.
He went up there and he was coming back down towards us and he goes, run, he's got a gun. And
okay, can I jack up the volume? Oh, I'm sorry. That's as high as the volume goes. Let's continue with these weird sisters from Oz.
oh, our heart started to pound and I said, well, Mum, where's Mum? And poor Mum was stuck up there, but apparently...
Okay, that's enough of weird Australia stuff. I'm sure that's probably something that you have seen already, if I am not mistaken.
Actually, no, I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen that?
I hadn't seen that, thankfully.
These are two.
Now I have.
These are two sisters who got involved in some kind of carjacking, and they are
Which is a common crime here.
There's no crime. And there's no gun crime, right? No, of course not. And if you said there was, you'd be a damn liar because your government says there is no gun crime. Maybe, maybe not. We'll get to that. I'd like to get to
Well,
this.
no, the politicians say there's no gun crime.
All
The
right.
government the government website does beg to differ, but of course, the lunatic leftist media and gun grabbers who, you know, and let's face it, the majority of media outlets in Australia source all of their international news from the three-letter buffoons in the United States. So their agenda is very much in the same pocket. Even the Australian Shooters Party, a political party, will not even.
Okay, wait. Stop right there. Did you just say the Australian Shooters Party?
Yes.
Okay, that's a political party?
Yes.
The
They will,
Australia
yeah, in a
shooters
few weeks, they will have
party.
at least 2 candidates in our state running for the federal Senate.
Wow. Wow.
We,
What does
we've
the
got a
government
general
think
election
about
coming
that?
up in about 4 weeks.
So the Australian government has something simple to, well, we just have to outlaw that party wholesale right from the very beginning.
Well, no. They've got some recent bad press in the American 2A blogosphere, wondering why the Australian Shooters Party is not advocating for an Australian equivalent of 2A rights for Australians. Basically, it's a bunch of grumpy old deer and duck hunters who just wanted to protect their access to what they were doing and fuck everyone else over. You know, every election I will go up to the local high school, which is the polling, usually the polling point for where I am, and I'll see these clowns. I said, well, when are you going? You know, you're advocating for shooters' rights. Well, when are you going to advocate for true Second Amendment style rights? Oh, no. We don't want gun crime coming to Australia. We just need to protect our access to certain firearms for hunting purposes.
Okay, so screw all the rest of the people as long as we get the ability to have rifles and shotguns and do our own hunting and kill animals. The rest of it, in terms of...
I've said to them, does it not bother you that as a condition of having a shooter's license in Australia, that police can enter your home at any time without a warrant and do an inspection to make sure that your firearms are stored correctly?
Oh, don't say that too loud, Sir Jack of Alexander, because that will be giving ideas. And I have 2 articles coming up about firearms here in the United States. Leftists haven't stopped pushing. They will keep pushing. But that's okay, because hey, as long as we get what we want, Australia and that party, the Australia Shooters Party, says it's only for hunting. Come on, defending yourself, personal defense and family defense that's way too overrated, right?
Yeah, I mean, my local, the equivalent of my local congressman. He and I have had numerous heated conversations over the years. And one time I pointed out that while he was campaigning at our local farmers market, he had 2 plainclothes officers from the Australian Federal Police for security. And I immediately spotted that they had ankle holsters. I mean, having been in the military, I'm very aware of the places where people tend to carry concealed. And when I pointed out, and I said, look, you've got these 2 gentlemen here. They're either Federal Protective Services, or they're federal or state police. And they're here for your protection and the protection of your family. Right? Which, I do not blame you one little bit for wanting your family protection. But why is it that I cannot access the tools to get my family a similar level of protection? And his response was, well, you're just part of the throng. In other words, you are one of the little people.
Though truly, are you surprised? The rife fucking arrogance of prick sets like that is astounding, but taken in context, not necessarily so, because let me ask you then, Jack of Alexander, were you surprised when he responded in that fashion? That's something that an asshole politician in California, always spell it with a K, for example, would say.
Oh, I wasn't surprised by the answer, mostly because in his resume, he's a retired police officer. And the general conception of cops in this country is, we get to walk around like cowboys carrying guns all the time. You should see the way these guys prance around in plain clothes with a duty belt on, and just their badge on a chain. And they're walking around with it. They've always got their hand sitting on the retention strap as they're walking around talking to people. I mean, give me the gunfight at the OK Corral, in 2024 smart business attire or casual business attire as these pricks walk through shopping centers harassing people.
But they have something that you can't get. So that's what makes them special. Very special. And they don't mind boasting about it, and they don't mind belittling you because you're a groundling, you're a prole, you're a serf. You are less than the grime and the grit on the bottom of their shoes.
Yeah. And I mean, at the moment, Victoria Police are really shitty with the armed security groups like Armour Guard and so on, because they've now been allowed to buy semi-automatic handguns. When Victoria Police updated from the old Smith & Wesson 357 Magnum, which they only had police issue 38 special loads in,
sure.
They forced all of the armed security companies, so anyone that offered armed security in the state, to purchase all of the old 357 revolvers off Victoria Police at like $2,500 a unit.
Oh, no problem, because that's worth it.
Yeah. One of our local constables, before he got the M&P, his service weapon that was issued to him was older than his grandfather.
I believe it. I believe it. However, if it was a wheel gun, as you indicate, then it was probably quite reliable.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, it didn't stop Victoria Police from having the largest death count out of all law enforcement agencies in the country.
Okay, you're saying so they were involved in the greatest number of shootings?
Yes.
And why was that, do you suppose?
Well, I mean, at one stage, one of our former chiefs of police said it would be over her dead body that Victoria Police get semi-automatic weapons because I mean, they're killing too many people now with 6-shooters. I mean, they weren't allowed speed loaders or anything like that, yet they still had the highest kill count. And many of those deaths, I'm not saying all of them, but many of those were questionable kills. That they tend to like to shoot first, and at least in Victoria, and ask questions later, and which was evident during COVID, given the 2 deaths that I personally witnessed at the hands of Victoria Police. Okay, it wasn't with firearms; it was with physical violence and spring-loaded batons. But I mean, Victoria Police does have a reputation of wet work.
Wonderful. And with that, we'll take a break. I'm BZ. That happens to be Jack Alexander over there. Thank you for being here in the saloon. And if you need to take a potty break, now's the best time to do it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? Coming in November to SHR Media. By way of Big E Jackson, you need to check out Mission Ready Men. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man, as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson, coming this November on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Saloon. I am BZ. For a guest tonight, we have Jack Alexander. Thanks for watching live, and subscribe, if you would, please, to the SHR Media channel on YouTube. Please subscribe to the SHR Media Rumble channel, where you can watch all of the great SHR wonderful, wonderful people. Our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room is being revamped once again. Now, it looks like this tonight for our show. And, you know, it's homey, it's nice, it's comfy. I'm working on another chat. My goal is to try to find the chat room that more people are interested in visiting. Someday I will hit on it, but I've got some great concepts coming, as a matter of fact. Tonight
You've already got it there, my friend.
What's that?
You've already got it there. Your backdrop there is perfect.
Oh, that's the Saloon.
Oh,
That's,
yeah. I mean, you know, if people don't want to visit and chat in the Saloon.
Yeah. What's wrong with them? Let's go to some more stories, and then we'll go back to the reason that we're here. This is nuts. Now, interesting, earlier in the first half hour, I noticed that Cheetah had a quick question. He said, I occasionally watch Sky News Australia on YouTube. They're some of the best conservative news that he found during the election. This also is from Sky News. This was just released recently, April 20th, just a couple of days ago from Sky News. Bombshell document about Victoria's, your state, Victoria's COVID curfew, kept secret for more than 4 years, can now be revealed in a legal fight, after a legal fight. So there was a document apparently about Victoria's COVID curfew that was kept secret and now is revealed after said fight. The email, this is where they found it, through an email obtained exclusively by Sky News, has already prompted anger within the Victoria opposition and even a partial concession within both the Labor government and the state's current health minister. You knew already, Jack Alexander, that this was true. It was more repression and oppression of the citizens in Australia. This deals with Victoria.
This is one of the reasons why I spent the 2.5 years of that lockdown literally hiding from law enforcement. You know, with the information that I was finding locally, and that or stuff that I'd witnessed personally, and giving to your show and to America Tonight, to Kate Delaney, another fantastic friend and mentor of mine, it put me very much in the crosshairs of law enforcement and put my family at risk. In fact, a lot of the things that I will discuss tonight is once again putting my family at risk, because the one thing that came out of the lockdowns in all of this was the Australian government passed internet thought police laws, which now makes a lot of the things that I'll say tonight technically illegal and worthy of arrest.
That's one thing that I will never concede. Now, if you want to go to the article, it's at skynews.com. And here's the headline. Like I say, at the end of every show, I post the show links, and I post the show links at bloviatingzeppelin.net. You can see anything that I display on the show, you can find in the show links at my Rumble channel and also at the SHR Media, bloviatingzeppelin.net, as well as Rumble. So if you doubt any of these things, or if you just want to find out more information, perhaps I didn't go into the given article or the video sufficiently deep for you, you can go back and you can find all of these source documents. But basically, they were saying that you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything, there's a curfew, and this is all predicated but upon oppression and our interpretation of Wuhan 19 bullshit. Where am I wrong?
You're not. I mean, when you look at it, the state government at that time and still is at this time is the Labor Party. They are all about protecting big unions. And Daniel Andrews, the then premier, the guy in the photo with the glasses, speaks both Cantonese and Mandarin without an accent. He bypassed Australian federal law to bring the Bridge and Road Initiative to Victoria. So when he couldn't get money out of the state government because they wanted to audit a few things, he went straight to China and basically sold us out. And when people started kicking back about China and started asking questions, especially during where was the source of this virus coming from, his first thing was to shut down the big cities, Melbourne in particular. And if you dared, if you want, apart from Sky News, who are based out of Sydney, but even their local bureau here in Melbourne did not get raided by state police, because there is an army of very well-paid lawyers up in Sydney and in Canberra who would have taken this to the Australian Supreme Court very quickly. What they wound up doing was targeting freelance and independent journalists such as myself, who can't afford that. We had or several journalists here were getting visits at early morning for bed checks. That have to the police would come and wake up the whole house to make sure that the journalist was still there, and wake up the whole family, do a head count, that, or they would come with letters saying, if you even cover and report on the protest that's planned for tomorrow, you will be arrested under the terrorism laws for incitement, and you could also be charged under the Sedition in Media Act, which are the two laws that they used to get my channel deleted and me banned from posting to YouTube. I still can't post there, even though never been charged, never been questioned, never been arrested for it. But because I dared to show the world what was going on, they used the terrorism laws and the threats to some young kid, probably in California, that he might get arrested as an accessory. Mind you, I don't think YouTube needed that much help to, convincing to delete my channel, considering I'm a conservative. I've never received any money for any of the content I put on there, because they consider it too far right wing. But that's what when I got onto my YouTube rep, that's what they told me, that they were threatening to be charged under the Sedition in Media Act and the Terrorism Incitement Acts if they didn't delete my channel, which has now made it next to impossible for me to get more work in the media, because when they say, look, I had a show that went on for more than 20 years that was on YouTube. And they go, oh, great, give us the channel name. Oh, sorry, it's been deleted.
Well, what can you do about that?
Yeah.
What
I mean,
really is it?
essentially, they killed my journalism career.
What can you do about it? 1996. 1996 was to make sure that your country, I hate to say it, but it's true, but it's one of the primary reasons you want to get the fuck out of that Dodge, is leftist Democrats, the globalists, would love to replicate what was done to Australia. You have been completely, the electorate, the population has been completely defanged after the 1996 gun confiscation, and therefore your government can run roughshod all over you, and you can do nothing. You are the true proles, and they are government. And I can say nothing other than your police keep proving that they are the Stasi, the overlords serving the will of the governmental oppressors. And that's, I don't think I need go any deeper into that in terms of, that's why you want to leave.
During the lockdown, I did manage to corner my congressman, the same guy I'd had arguments over firearms with that I was relating to before. And I thought, okay, I'm having trouble. I need to renew my passport. Otherwise, my the immigration visa that I previously had in the US was going to go tits up. And they, I went to him and said, look, I'm having trouble. They're not renewing my passport. If I don't get it done by this date, my visas are going to expire and become invalid. It wouldn't even help for that. It was like, well, why do you want to live in America? It's full of country music, rednecks, and people who cherish freedom and will protect it with guns. And I went, yeah, I'm one of them. I want to get out of here because what is going on here, I believe, is a violation of not only state, and federal law. I believe it's a violation of international law and crimes against humanity.
See, you guys should be screaming.
You're welcome. He says to you're welcome to leave. He says, well, you're welcome to leave. I said, no, I can't. The government won't renew my passport. You've refused to renew my passport.
You're a hostage.
Yeah, and the tight line I had to walk. The tightrope I had to walk during that is, on one hand, I've got law enforcement chasing me for my media activities. Now, Jack Alexander, for those that don't know, is not my legal name. right? In my early on in my broadcast career, my first really big boss and mentor told me to use a pseudonym, right? Because and through my media career, whether it be breakfast radio doing comedy and musical parodies and so on, right up to my journalistic career, it has kept some of the crazies and the stalkers away, but it's also kept law enforcement away, because they're looking for someone called Jack Alexander who doesn't have a driver's license, who doesn't vote. So it's a little bit hard for them to track down an address. It's one of the layers of my onion of protection that I've used over the years.
Let's also look at this article. This essentially says the same thing. This, however, is from a different source, abc.net AU.
That's the government broadcaster.
Okay, great. ABC, the government broadcaster. Then, if that's true, then I'm a little shocked. Another if-then equation. Emails show Melbourne COVID curfew was not based on health advice. In short, the Victorian opposition obtained an email exchange. They had to go to the Freedom of Information, which apparently you have a similar Freedom of Information Act, which shows that the then Premier, Daniel Andrews, said Melbourne's first COVID curfew before it was, and said that it was a curfew before it was recommended by any sort of official health experts. And the email shows health department officials did support a curfew, but had not advised the cabinet to impose it. So what's next? It says down in the what next thing, the opposition is calling on Premier Jacinta Allen to explain the government's action. Explain this to me, if you would, Jack Alexander. Jacinta Allen, wasn't she's, or maybe I'm getting my names wrong, the New Zealand president who oppressed New Zealand's people at the time, or just two different Jacintas?
There might be two different Jacintas. Let me just do a quick.
All right, because Jacinta Allen,
actually, if she was a New Zealand premier, then she'd have dual allegiance and wouldn't be.
But New Zealand was every bit as oppressive as Australia. Had about 0.5 cases in Australia, just not many at all. And then locked down both countries. Australia was locked down. Victoria, your state, was certainly locked down. And she locked down all of New Zealand. Beautiful country.
Okay. It's a different person. It's a different person.
All right. So it's like all the crap that occurs here in the United States in terms of, well, we found out this, but then when we found out that, it turns out that, well, we're not doing anything about it. We're not seeing people being arrested, So as far as I'm concerned, in Australia and in any number of cases in the United States, it's all meh, mouth music. I want to see some fucking action. I bet you do too. Will you see anything as a result of this?
No, we won't, because the so-called conservative Liberal Party won't do anything. In fact, the smaller parties now, especially the Trumpet for Patriots, which has obtained a lot of support from Tucker Carlson, who came over and spoke at several of their events. They're the only political party here that is pushing for any sort of real change, because both Labor and Liberal are opposite sides of the same coin. And they're now being called the mono party by Trump of Patriots people, because they both lied during COVID. The Liberal Party was technically the federal government at the time, and basically just threw their hands up in the air and said, well, we'll let the states run the country. And it basically felt that they just gave up.
Big E from Mission Ready Men, the show that I indicated earlier in the first half hour, indicated that Jacinda Ardern was the prime minister.
Okay.
So I got my
similar sounding name.
Jacinda confused with my Jacinta. Jacinda. And let's put another. I told you that we would get to this. This is from the Western Journal. Now, this is what's happening in Colorado. 1996, Australia's gun confiscation, and that made Australia infinitely safer. Here's a story that will make Colorado also infinitely safer. State adopts bill that will ban up to 85% of rifles and signals the death of the Second Amendment. But wait until I get into a little bit of the details of this. So, new legislation in Colorado is trying to punish Americans who exercise their Second Amendment. Last Friday, the Colorado Sun reported that Governor Jared Polis signed SB 3 into law, which places more restrictions on gun sales in the state. And this is the beginning of the detail. Specifically, under the new law taking effect in August 2026, manufacturing, selling, and purchasing certain semi-automatic weapons in Colorado that use detachable magazines will be illegal. That's a shit ton of weapons, as it indicates up in the headline, 85%. And according to the Sun, that includes the common AR-15, the AK-47, which is not quite so common, several variations of those firearms, several shotguns, and a ton of handguns, because semi-autos are very popular right now, not wheel guns. But wait, I haven't gotten to the best part yet. Then I'm going to go to another article. Those firearms must now be sold with magazines welded, soldered, or epoxied onto them. And those magazines must also only hold 15 rounds. Wait, BZ, you're a lying sack of crap. No one would do that. The law says those firearms in 2026, taking effect August 2026, must now be sold with magazines that are welded, soldered, or epoxied onto them. So let me see if I have this right. You'd like to get that nice new Glock, except you can't, because you will fire 15 rounds through that Glock, and according to this law, it will then be useless. Or you could purchase a $1,200 AR, which has only 15 rounds. With the magazines welded into their receivers, you would shoot 15 rounds in those ARs, and those would be completely useless after that, because to unfix or unweld or unepoxy that magazine from that given firearm is illegal. And this is the goal.
I'm trying to work out how you'd even load an AR or even an AK.
That's the point, to completely remove them from usage and purchase, and to completely see, they're not going to go, Colorado is not going to go into people's homes and confiscate firearms. Because if they were to do that in any state, people would get shot. I'm not fomenting anything. I'm simply telling you what would happen. Now, it has already occurred with some folks. People say, oh, no, there would never be gun confiscations in the United States of America. Well, fucking wrong. During Hurricane, the one that was in Louisiana.
Yeah, Katrina.
Certain individuals in law enforcement went up into homes and said, did you have firearms? And those who were stupid enough to say, yeah, had them confiscated.
And not only that, during Katrina, it wasn't just law enforcement, it was also Army Reserve that were doing that as well.
So it was, yeah, there were other people that obeyed that, but that was in a time of crisis. Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yeah.
And other people were concentrating on surviving Katrina, trying to survive the terrible waters, food, shelter, clean water, That was very, very important. And so the focus was not on that tyranny at that point. And then, of course, the American media maggots let all of that die. At least Jeremy Hansen is in chat. Thanks for being here.
One of the fallouts from that story from Colorado, I've seen a lot of people interview saying, "Oh, look, we've only got, a little 22 rifle the kids, plink with on the farm." Well, a Ruger 1022, which is the most common 22 that
like the ranch rifle.
Yeah. It's probably, but it's got a detachable box magazine. That will fall under this rule.
Anything with a detachable magazine, anything and everything.
I mean, some of these laws are so messed up, and I'm surprised that barrel shrouds and pistol grips haven't been included in this. Colorado of today is not like the Colorado that I spent 2 years living in.
No, it's a completely blue state. It's a stupid state. It's an insane state. The banned weapons can still be made for military, law enforcement, prison guards, or armored vehicle personnel, but the average citizen will see major hurdles in getting around the law.
And and here's one of the things, like in California, if you take that same Ruger 1022, you buy it at Dick's Sport, Dick's don't sell, the local gun shop.
Yep.
Just your local gun shop, and it's got the classic wood stock on it. And you go to the accessories aisle, and you pick up one of the stock replacements for it that does have a folding stock and a pistol grip and a barrel shroud on it. Right? In California, I know, always spell it with a K.
Yep.
And several other states, New York, and so on. If you take, right, you remove 2 screws. That's all it takes to remove the barrel and action out of a 1022. 2 screws. You can pick it up in its whole entirety, barrel, receiver, trigger group, and bolt it in, do up those 2 screws in the other bolt. Now you're committing a felony. It has not changed how that rifle works. It doesn't make it a machine gun automatically. You've basically given it a boob or a nose job.
Well, who created that? Who created those laws? That's why the deep state ATF.
Dianne Feinstein's responsible for that.
Did Congress pass the bulk of those regulations that ATF has? And the answer is no. Not just no, but extra crispy fuck to the no. Here's another story. We got enough time for this final story before we take a break at the top of the hour. I'm BZ. You're talking to myself and Jack Alexander. California moves forward with controversial Glock ban. They want to ban a handgun, an entire handgun. According to Copper Jacket TV, hosted by gun right activists William, the state of California has taken a major step with AB 1127. This is called the Glock ban. It has cleared another legislative hurdle and appears to be on the fast track to the governor's desk. That is to say, Newsom. And so what is 1127? 1127 targets pistols, Glocks, that can accept conversion switches, specifically Glocks and Glocks only at this point. The federal government already makes it a felony to own or use devices that convert semi-auto to fully automatic pistols. California lawmakers are now pushing to ban an entire category of gun if those models are capable of being modified, regardless of whether or not any modification actually takes place. You can have the gun, you can have the Glock, but you're not going to be able to have it if, though you haven't done it, you could potentially do it. That's how silly, stupid, and fattening this has gotten. I'm BZ. That's Jack Alexander. We'll be right back after the break. We have more political buttery goodness to go on. And with that, I myself have to make a pit stop, so to speak. I'm an old dude, okay? Give me a break. I'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty.
Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and oh God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, passion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
I'm back. I'm BZ. Thanks for being in the saloon tonight. I have Jack Alexander, one each, right here, also in the saloon. Thank you for being here. Thanks for watching. I don't have the groundswell of people that I had the other night, but that's okay because I have a lot of information to convey. We're going to go back to this article, and then we will go on to many others. As I have indicated any number of times, go up here, look. Blah, 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 blah. Those are all the things that I have slated to talk about for tonight. If we even get up to, I don't know, right around here, I'll kind of be shocked, to be honest.
And then there's a few on my screen too.
No, I wouldn't be surprised about that at all. Now, one final comment about AB 1127 in California, always spell it with a K, which is a naked attempt to just steal firearms. Now, they can get away with this, and they're attempting to get away with confiscation, except it can't precisely be quantified as confiscation. We're not going, look, folks, we're not going into your homes. We're not stealing the guns that you already have. Oh, no, we're just going to make them illegal for you to possess, for you to have. And if you're found with one, oh, my goodness, that's a felony. Now, I should care to point this out. This is redundant. This is ridiculously redundant because that's the goal, is to simply remove an entire semi-auto firearm from the state of California. Machine gun conversion devices, those are called switches. They're already illegal under both federal and state law. So they've been illegal, literally, for decades. So this is nothing but an extra theft, an extra legal theft of firearms these are from law-abiding citizens. These are not from people who they've committed heinous crimes. No, these are this is aimed at people who are lawful obeyers of law. In California, always spell it with a K. So this is a proscription, like Colorado, of a host of weapons, and this is completely eliminating, out of California, always spell it with a K, one entire group of firearms. Let's go a little bit further over here. What I'm doing, I don't even know. I'm putting kind of the bad stories or the things you need to know first up here. And then we may or may not get to happy stories. But these are some of the stories that you do need to hear. And then I'm going to go through a few of these stories. And then I want you to hear the travails of Jack Alexander. And the theme for tonight was, Jack is a refugee in waiting. And this is a timely tale because of the fact of, that MS-13 piece of shit and the TDA pieces of shit that Democrats all want to love and hug and embrace. Like this guy. Here's another thug, black DJ and TikTok influencer with over 1 million followers, threatens to stab white people in the heart, just like Carmelo Anthony did. Can you say black racist? Now, see, here's the other thing. I don't mind calling blacks racist because, sadly, a number of blacks are racist. Oh, you can't say that, BZ. Black males, black females. I show the stories. I play the videos. I always want to let them speak in their own voice so that you can see and hear what abject racists many of these fucks are. That was one of them. And then here's something also very interesting. And then we're going to go to another story. This is, remember Carmelo Anthony, the black guy who stabbed the white kid at, I believe, a high school game. Now, the guy representing him, who is aiding Carmelo Anthony, who everybody is bleeding all over, and they set up GoFundMe pages for a murderer. And again, I say, go back to the beginning of the show and see my advisement. So the guy that's trying to assist Carmelo Anthony has a huge criminal history himself. That's no shocker. That includes a conviction of child abuse and allegations of domestic violence from a former romantic partner. The guy's name is, oh, by the way, I forgot to include one of the most important points. The guy's a minister. So Minister Dominique Alexander, the spokesman for the teen murderer, has previously been charged with multiple felonies. And all I can say with regard to that is, okay, A, racist, and B, birds of a feather tend to flock together. Imagine such... Damn, unless I get into this right now with you. And we're going to go talk to Jack here in just a moment. Like I said, the phone lines are open. If you look below, if you're interested in talking on the show, 916-835-3329. And it's 916-835-3329. Just look at the little scroll thing going on at the bottom right there. I wanted to get to a story about China. Oh, there are some more comments in chat. 173 so far watching on KLRN. And that's why I say I love me some Rick Robinson. Mission Ready Men doesn't get more racist than that. I would certainly tend to agree. So like I say, the phone lines are open. One more time, 916-835-3329. I'm going to take that scroll down here for just a minute because I want to put a more important scroll up for people to see. And I think Jack would agree that this is a very important scroll. So Jack, you've talked about this before. Tell folks, I don't think people have much of an understanding of what it is that it takes to try to get into the United States, and more specifically from Australia. The trials and tribulations and the obstructions that you've had to face are legion. That's just one aspect. That's not even taking into account the monetary value and the money lost in an attempt to escape Australia for any number of the reasons that we have elucidated earlier. So tell folks, Jack, this is your time right now for at least to the bottom of the hour. Tell people what you've encountered in an attempt just to do this legally, sir.
Well, first of all, there's the cost. When you look at the immigration websites, you'll see a couple of small fees, but they're never accurate. Look, we've probably spent somewhere between $500,000 and $750,000.
Okay, stop. Say that again. Tell people how much you have spent yourself to do it lawfully, to enter the United States lawfully.
As I said, depending on the exchange rate on the day, it's somewhere between $500,000 and $750,000. That's in application fees, lawyers. Everyone says you use a lawyer to help produce the packet to put it forward to represent you in immigration court. I mean, every time a lawyer's involved, it's thousands of dollars that gets added onto it. Just to have a lawyer put an immigration packet together, the last time I had it done was $12,000 just to fill in the paperwork for us and lodge it with the immigration courts in the US. And then once it gets on the docket, it gets bumped down the line. The lawyer will rock up to court only to find out that the judge's docket for that day is so full of illegal immigration cases that our case has been adjourned to another time. Well, but I mean, the lawyer still needs to get paid. It's absolutely ridiculous. The hassles and the hoops you've got to go through. Yes, look, I don't mind getting a criminal history check to prove that I'm a person worthy of coming. To the best of my ability, I have presented my military records. Unfortunately, there's a lot of black texture in that. Financial records.
Okay, stop right there just for a second, if you would. I don't think people, I get new watchers, new listeners to the show all the time. Explain to people that you've not just been in Australia, you have served your time in the military in Australia, and you've also served in the military helping the United States. So please tell people about your military service and experience and what you have already done for the U.S.
I spent 10 years in the Australian Army, most of that in what is known as a Special Air Service Regiment. That's the equivalent of Rangers, Deltas, SEALs. It's the Australian Special Forces. I've got my sandy-coloured beret over there, just like the British one there. And the day I qualified was one of the proudest days of my life. And I had 10 years of proud service, mostly minor deployments in the region, to Fiji during the 80s, to the Sinai Peninsula also in the 80s, and then Somalia, and also Desert Storm the first time around. So I've served alongside US forces. My Army career ended with a mid-air helicopter crash during training in 1996. 18 were killed, 6 of us survived. As far as I know today, there are only 3 of us that are still surviving. And all of us have had a hell of a time dealing with the Australian version of Veterans Affairs. They just do not want to recognize the sacrifice of what a lot of veterans go through, whether it be in training or even in combat. When I was living in the United States, I'm a person who believes that if you immigrate to a country, you need to give back to it. And while in Colorado, I got involved with the Mounted Rangers, which was part law enforcement, part search and rescue. When I moved to Texas, that was the rules in Texas were a little bit different. so I couldn't be involved with volunteer level law enforcement there, because they didn't have any. To the best of my knowledge, at least in the county I was living in, they didn't have it. But I was at a gun show and came across a table of youths recruiting for the U.S. Air Force Auxiliary Civil Air Patrol. And the Civil Air Patrol has been around since was raised the week before the attacks on Pearl Harbor, and did a lot of coastal protection in old yellow Piper Cubs.
Oh my God.
Including lobbing hand grenades, Ukrainian drone style, out of the Piper Cub onto Japanese submarines off the coast of California.
Whatever works.
Yeah. At the very least, it made the subs submerge. There is an urban legend, which historians in CAP have sort of tried to say, no, that didn't happen. But that was before all the footage of drones dropping hand grenades into the turrets of tanks and being very successful in removing them from the conflict.
That's the thing in Ukraine. Oh my God,
Yeah.
yes.
So there's a lot more credibility to that now in this modern internet age. So maybe some of those stories were true. Now, apart from those sort of things, in the modern day Civil Air Patrol, the U.S. Congress has mandated 3 functions for the Civil Air Patrol. We do search and rescue. The U.S. Air Force Auxiliary has the largest fleet of single-engine high-wing aircraft on the planet, mostly Cessna 172s and 182s. And they are used every time an emergency locator beacon goes off. The closest squadron with an aircraft is tasked to go out and try and locate where that beacon is, both in the air and with ground parties. All right. Also, part of that aerial fleet includes supplying aerial assets to other agencies such as FEMA during a time of disaster. We would go up and photograph flooding, tornado damage, what have you. I've been on missions that have been involved with Customs and Border Protection, where we have flown down to the Mexican border, and we have flown up and down just north of the Rio Grande. And one of our Cessnas had the optics package off a Reaper drone on there.
Oh, very nice.
So the Customs and Border Patrol was in the back working the optics. I'd be normally in the co-pilot seat as the flight mission commander and navigator, while a licensed pilot was sitting in the pilot seat. Flying the aircraft. We'd go down there and we would videotape and try and interdict illegals and drugs coming across the border. We've also done it with DEA as well. We've had DEA missions. And we've got the cadet we've got a cadet cadre. The squadron that I was in was a composite squadron, and where we'd get young people ages 12 to 18, and they would make their way through the ranks. And there was a high emphasis on learning leadership and the STEM subjects as they made their way through the ranks. And many of the nation's military colleges, if you've been in the Civil Air Patrol, that's better than any letter from a member of Congress in getting accepted into the Air Force Academy or any other military school.
Very nice.
And then we also would go out to schools and encourage kids in the STEM subjects. One of, and I do call them, I still refer to them as my cadets. One of my cadets, whose mother was an immigrant from Mexico, served 14 years in the U.S. Army. She got an internship working for Cessna. She actually worked on one of the new aircraft we got in our squadron during a summer internship. Behind the avionics panel, proudly there with all the other people who worked on that aircraft is her signature. And that's it. The last I heard, she now works as on the assembly line at Bell Textron, putting aircraft together.
Good for her. Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, I loved being involved with that because I was giving back to the community that was essentially adopting me. And I think that's what that that was incumbent on me. And I was looking forward to having my two youngest boys join the Civil Air Patrol and make their way through. And it opens up for a lot of scholarships and so on. But as I said, it's a way to give back, and as part of that, I was given an honorary commission at that stage as a second lieutenant. If I was still there now, it would be I'd be a captain. I would have raised up to the honorary level of captain. Yeah,
Well,
I enjoyed a lot of it.
The point I want to make behind all of this is that wrong way. Jack is not coming here to be a parasite on the host of America, as are so many other illegal invaders in this country. And we've had it. And yet still, let me see if I can differentiate between then and now, Jack Alexander. Then you had a passport, which you could use to get into the United States. I think you had, if I'm not mistaken, you said you had a home here in Texas for a while. And so that was then, and somehow you managed to acquire said passport. And that was, I don't know, how many years ago would that have been? 10, 15, something like that?
I started living over there in 2009.
Okay. All right. Okay. That was then. This is now. What was the difference? What is the difference?
Well, what screwed things up was COVID. It took forever to get my wife and kids' visas sorted out. As I said, the finishing line just kept getting pushed down the line. Their visas finally get approved. I come home because I'd literally spent 12 years, 6 months in the US, home for a couple of months, reconnect with the wife and kids, rinse and repeat for 12 years. It was like being back on a military deployment again. And their visas finally get approved. I come back, COVID happens, and I can't renew my passport, which violates my visa, which was the primary document that was sponsoring them, because the Australian government would not renew my passport during the lockdowns. When I got back and they started talking about the lockdowns, I immediately called the US consulate. And the folks down on St Kilda Road and the US consulate here in Melbourne are absolute legends. Fantastic people.
How so?
All I did was call them up and say, "Hey, look, I have this visa. I'm going. They've just locked down the country. If I'm out of the US, as long as they're saying the country's going to be locked down, it's going to violate my visa." And the people at the consulate said, "Don't worry about it. We've already suspended that rule. We know people with visas are going to get trapped outside the country because of the lockdowns." They suspended that. The only thing that the US consulate asked was for me to keep my passport active and the visa transferred into any new document. Only thing they asked for. And it was the Australian government that messed that up. So that meant I had to sell my house in Texas to live, because I didn't want to go on to unemployment benefits here, because that would look bad, trying to get back. So we wound up selling the house in Texas at a loss. I didn't get back anywhere near what I paid for it, let alone making back the money that I put into it into the renovations. I had to lay off 2 people that were working for me because I'd created a business. Now, while it could operate for short periods of time while I was out of the country, it couldn't maintain I couldn't maintain it from a distance. So it was 2 Americans who lost their jobs because of the Australian government dicking me around.
Okay, so you can't get a visa, so you can't get a passport, or is it the other way around?
No. I could not. My passport was set to expire. That had my visa, which had an expiry date later than my than my visa, the passport would. So when I came back, I'd have to go and get spend the 6 to 8 weeks getting a new passport. Apparently it takes 6 to 8 weeks to get a government official here to push 20 buttons on a computer keyboard to reissue a passport. And then it was going to take another 4-6 weeks. Once I got the passport back, to send it to the consulate to get them to do their stuff. But the instant my original passport expired, my visa was now null and void.
Okay, and does that strictly delineate that it is irrecoverable? You can't get it?
It's back to square one. Automatically straight back to square one. As I said, the people at the consulate were fantastic. They looked for every exemption and thing in there that they could to try and do it. But they said, but that until Australia releases the lockdowns, and I'm not free to travel, anything they could do was moot.
Okay, the lockdowns now, however, have ceased.
Yeah. So, but now we're not in the same financial position. I don't have the house. I don't have ties in the US anymore.
Okay.
So the only option we've currently got is the annual green card lottery, which we have entered. For those people that don't know about it, certain allied countries to the United States, there's a pool of 50. This year was 55,000 visas. They get thrown into a pool, and every one of these countries gets a certain number of entries approved to it. It's one. You're only allowed one entry per qualifying adult. So that means my wife and I both have one. Now we only need one of our names to get pulled up, and we can start the process again. Right, but it still means we've got to go pay all the application fees, pay the fees to get all the health checks done again, pay the fees to get all the background checks done again, show that we can make a living in the United States. We've got to go through all that process, and if by chance we get through all of that and are successful, we're not allowed to enter until the end of 2026 to move over.
Okay.
Barring that, the only other option I could see now with the new thought police stuff that's going on in Australia, that saw me hiding from law enforcement during COVID, is leave the family here, head over, and when I get to LAX or somewhere, try and claim asylum. They're the only two options I've got left, barring I win the lottery and I can drop $5 million on Trump's new gold card.
Okay. Folks, we're going to take a break right now. This will be the final break for the show. I'm not going to be doing any overtime. You've been listening to Jack Alexander. I'm BZ. We're going to continue with this, do some extra stories. Now's the time to, last call for alcohol. Hit it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle a tough topic with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch the river of common sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. This is the final half hour. Some people are sad, very sad, that there will be no overtime. Rick Robinson says, I feel cheated, comma, you bastard, B-A-S-T-I-D, you bastard. I feel the need for speed. And here's Jack. By the way, I said, here, TV, Rick's TV station could run a story on my struggle. I don't know if Rick does TV. He does do radio. I do know that. And Rick says, moo, moo. Sometimes the cows go, moo. And, you bastard. You're just a big bastard. Let's bring Jack back into the peak shore right now. It's an amazing story. I'm sure people have, and that's, again, one of the reasons that I enjoy having you here is people need to realize, okay, you can either do it illegally and come one, come all, get your ankles damp, crossing the Rio Grande. Now, that doesn't necessarily occur anymore because Trump has had, a great deal to do with that. Democrats literally do not know how to respond to that. That's a story for another day and another time. But in an attempt to do things properly, conduct himself lawfully, to attempt to enter the United States, who wants to be a productive citizen here, I cannot think of a better way to say that Jack has been a productive citizen serving many aspects of the United States, wants to come here, has a great deal to offer, and he can't do it.
And all that stuff with the Air Force was completely unpaid volunteer work.
Yeah, you did your fiduciary benefit was zero.
Yeah. So now, now I'm limited to the green card lottery, winning the Powerball, and paying $5 million to get a gold visa, or amnesty, or trying to get amnesty, which is probably unlikely. Even with me once again pissing off the local thought police here, or another employment-based visa. But I mean, I'm almost 60. Without having my YouTube channel, getting a job in the media has been next to impossible. You know, if it wasn't for you and Kate Delaney over at Genesis, I wouldn't be heard in the United States these days.
Which is really very sad. I am not the go-to guy when it comes to technology. I mean, this is pretty clear what kind of a guy I am. And here's my vacuum tube. Here's my vacuum tube to prove it. I am the analog guy, but I don't want to insult you. This is not an attempt at insultation. I just made up another word. Have you thought about going and creating a YouTube channel, or excuse me, a Rumble channel and or a BitChute channel, or I can't think of the other one that tries to replicate YouTube. Vendi. That's, you can go to Vendi TV. That's not the one that I was thinking of. That's not the one operated by Rakim and Burkesh. I can't think of the name of it, but hey, look here. Jack says, or excuse me, Rick Robinson says, Jack, are you on X?
Yes,
I think he's
am.
going to try to attempt to go somewhere.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Not that I use it that often, but I am.
Okay. So there's the answer. You are on X. I don't know if Rick has a follow-up question to that, or tell you what. I may be the middleman in this. If you would, now you know where Rick Robinson is on X.
San Antonio, I think.
Okay. Well, he's in Oklahoma, but I mean, you know how to get to his X channel. You might. Okay, here we go. This is just what I was going to suggest. Rick says, DM me at RowdyRick73, at RowdyRick73. So perhaps you guys can get a convo going and figure out if there's anything to figure out in terms of your situazione, which is situation in Italian. I'm going to go to this story right now. This is from the Daily Caller. Anti-Trump resistance leaders campaign bankrolled by Dem power broker tied to Chinese intel. Now, it's been known for quite some time that Boston's Michelle Wu, I'll just be honest again, she's a fucking communist Chinese. And she's the mayor of Boston. Equals, you ignorant Boston fucks, do you know what you've done? And the answer is no, you don't know and or you don't care. China is our enemy. Someday, people will come to realize this. Boston Democratic Mayor, Democrat, imagine that her 2021 campaign received hundreds of thousands of dollars from a fundraiser who is listed by a Chinese intelligence agency as an official. Gary Yu, the founder of Boston International Media Consulting, helped raise over $300,000 for Michelle Wu, comma, she's a commie too. And so is he. But apparently, not very many people are interested in this knowledge. I bring this to you so that you can raise your level of knowledge. Here's another story that I want to throw to the stage. This is from Sarah Carter. One of the other, there are a handful, just a handful of journalists that I trust and read these days. Sarah Carter happens to be one of them. And this is her headline. New England Journal of Medicine pushes anti-fossil fuel narrative under the banner of health advocacy. Stop. I was just watching, and I will throw this then over to you, Jack Alexander. I was just noticing that there was an article, I saw it on Newsmax, Fox, someplace, I don't remember where, today, which indicated that Gen Zs have fallen out of love with medicine, and they're not seeking doctors, and they're not going to official areas for medical advice anymore. They're seeking other alternative views. because they were the ones that were raped and abused and shut down and locked down and lied to during the times of Wuhan 19. So it should come as no shock that they're not big believers in medicine. But, this is where that leftist shit of intersectionality comes into play, because here's the New England Journal of Medicine on one hand dealing with something that doesn't have a damn thing to do with medicine, saying that, we need to eliminate fossil fuels because those batteries blowing up and the rare earth metals required to make them, that's such a positive thing for the planet as well. So let me ask you, and translate this down below. Jack Alexander has the, how shall I say this? The belief, how about this? The trust in Australian medicine, has that gone up or down, do you believe, post Wuhan 19?
Sorry, repeat the question.
In the US, it's turning out that the younger generation is saying absolutely no to medicine. They don't trust the medicine anymore. And they're starting to not trust the science anymore. And they're starting to believe in and move over to a conservative type of philosophy now. So they are eschewing, Gesundheit, the science and the medicine. So in the aftershock of Wuhan 19, is that having anything to do with Australia's confidence in medicine, in science?
Look, I'm not really seeing a lot of things one way or the other. I mean, you say anything about science here, and you've got a bunch of trans people complaining that you can't believe science because, well, science doesn't take into consider feelings. But I mean, we have a socialized medicine system here that is so backed up. I mean, even still, here we are nearly 5 years post-COVID, most doctors' clinics will say, if you are sick, book a phone for a phone consultation. Don't come into the clinic for a proper examination. That's one thing that's never gone away here. So, look, as I said, I haven't seen anything like that. Even driving Uber, I'm still taking people to and from clinics every day. Admittedly, most of those passengers are the elderly people. But I ferry a lot of nurses and so on, and they seem to be as overworked and exhausted when I take them home as that they've ever been. I mean, the healthcare staff here in hospitals, they're still forced to wear face shields and masks for their entire shift. Patients, you go into a hospital, and everyone still has to mask up. So, some things just haven't changed post-COVID here.
Okay. Let me read this, though, and this is the point. The New England Journal of Medicine has once again ventured beyond clinical science, and the medicine, into political commentary. They're targeting the fossil fuel industry under the pretense of promoting public health. But this is the deal. The health imperative for a counter-marketing campaign is arguing through the New England Journal of Medicine for a public health initiative to discredit fossil fuels. Okay, then I suggest this, because you may as well do this, if you want to completely remove fossil fuels with no viable substitutes, just take your head, put it right here. Take your Mark 1 Model 1 knife and just slit your throat. Because who needs fossil fuels anyway? Who needs a viable economy? Who needs transportation? Who needs any of that? Obviously, no one does. This is how loony this is. Let me go and see if I can find another article. This is what we're facing. And again, Jack, if you have any knowledge of something similar to this on your end, this is how Democrats are winning right now. They're not winning on policy. They're not winning on thought. They're not winning on platform, because all of that was discounted in this terrible ass kicking that they got in November. Now, next week, I'm going to do a show on what's coming. I was hoping to hit some of that tonight. I'm not even going to get even remotely close to that. So my guess is I'll probably be doing an additional show tomorrow night, Friday night, or Saturday night, depending on whether or not Jersey Joe takes his showtime. If he doesn't take his showtime, if he doesn't do a show, I'm going to do a show in his place, because I have got way too much material for this. So this is what's happening here. Lawfare, not just lawfare, black-robed leftist anarchist judicial fare is occurring because they can't win. Democrats, leftists, and globalists cannot win in the house of ideas. So where they are winning is in all of these. We're going to shop courts. We're going to find courts. We know who the judges are, and judges say, "Oh, we're not partial. We're not biased. We're not agendized." Then why are these motherfuckers going to specific courts, to specific individuals? Because these black-robed leftist anarchist fucks, they all know to whom they want to go. That is the DLG. They know where to go, and they know where to. If they don't go to mom, they're going to go to dad. If they don't go to dad, they don't have mom. And as it was revealed today, these lawsuits, just in case, but see, this is like Islam. Democrats and leftists are similar to Islam in terms of they play long ball. And so they had any number, even prior to November 5th, last year, they had over 100 lawsuits lined up, JIC, just in case Donald Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, won. That's how far in advance they plotted and planned. And hence, what we have is this. There's another judge coming out and blocking policies. This time it's about sanctuary cities. Is there anything kind of sort of maybe similar to this that Australia is experiencing, Jack Alexander?
We get so many electric cars out of China now. For Uber have just cut half of their green fleet because they won't allow hybrids anymore. As of this week, Uber in Australia, if you want to book a green Uber, it has to be 100% electric.
You can't even do a hybrid.
Nope. They drop.
God fucking God.
It has to be 100% electric. And even in that now, it used to be hybrids and fully electrics. You could get a 10%, instead of being charged a 30% fee from commission from Uber, that only charge you a 20% fee. Well, if you had a hybrid now, you're back up to the 30%. And this is all being pushed by the government. I mean, now we're seeing more and more buses and trucks that are electric. And by the end of the day, I'm seeing more and more of these electric, usually the small rigid trucks for last mile delivery, stuck on the side of the road because they're out of battery. and they're waiting for the auto club, the RACV, which is the local auto club for the state of Victoria, to rock up with a diesel generator on a trailer and charge them up. And the Labor, the Liberals, the Labors, and the Greens in this election are pushing for more and more wind turbines and mandating minimum numbers of electric vehicles being sold. But I think now more and more people are beginning to question the logic of it.
Well, yes, but I'm sure because Australia's government is much smarter than our government, I'm sure that Australia is burgeoning with plans to create an infinite more number of electrical generation stations, because you're going to have to plan for electric cars, pure electric cars, because hybrids won't do it anymore. And of course, Australia is going to have to plan for the massive demand of AI. So in keeping with these two demands, because Australia wants to set the tone for the rest of the planet, I'm sure that Australia has 10, 20, 30, 40 or more electrical generation stations planned and in the works, ready to go, ready to put online real soon, right?
Nope. There hasn't been a new power station built outside of so-called green energy, the wind farms and so on. There hasn't been a coal-fired station built in the better part of 60 years. And the last natural gas powered or fuel power station is the one down here on the Yarra River, and that's like 40 years old, and it's only used intermittently. The energy officials have already said that there is not enough distribution in the network to pretty much charge the electric vehicles that are on the road now, let alone the growing rate that it's being pushed. There are no plans to build any more coal-fired power stations, even the so-called green coal, because the environmentalists keep getting in the way of that. And the only other option we've got, which has reared its head probably for the first time in 30 years, is for Australia to start going nuclear. But of course, the environmentalists are upset about that.
I have a great idea, a wonderful idea. And I've said this before any number of times, and I have fabulous ideas too. Haven't you got an assload of young people that you could hook up to bicycles with a belt and have them pedal and create a massive, you could have a line of 3, 4, 5,000 ute in a line with bicycles pedaling to create little generators and creating just a bunch of electrical energy just ready to use for Australia. I've suggested that any number of times.
5 years ago, I would have said yes.
They're young, they're strong, they want to help out. Why can't we do that?
5 years ago, I would have said yes to that. Yes, we've got an abundance of youth that could do that. Unfortunately, now they've all gone and bought electric scooters and electric bicycles. They don't even have the fitness to pedal themselves anymore.
Which is not shocking, because that's, I thought, no, I can't say that. I was about to say that I thought Idaho was the ne plus ultra of a conservative place to be. And in retrospect, no, that wasn't true. It's not true then, and it's not true now. Every state has been corrupted on some level by leftists. So, having said that, no one that I know of is adding electrical generation in the United States. As a matter of fact, California has already taken down reactors. They've taken down electrical generation stations. And Washington, which is right next to me, wants to take down 5 dams which produce they don't produce quite as big an amount of electricity as, say, the various dams that are on the Columbia. And I get a good percentile of my electricity here there's a local power station about 2 miles away from where I am right now. So electricity, I'm not particularly worried about, but Washington wants to take down 5 dams for salmon to let the rivers go. And then at a time when everyone is screaming for more electric power, including everybody in Australia, we're removing the chances for electric power. And you can't have coal. You certainly can't have nuclear. You can't have gas. And so what's left? Lots of young kids with pedal power. And still, my point was, in Idaho, just like everybody else, just like everywhere else, yeah, you see little kids and some adults and adolescents on these little electric scooters and bicycles all over the place. Fuck this me getting good calves because I'm a bicycle rider. No, I want to be chauffeured around by electricity, the likes of which we're starting to run out of, and we won't have it for a full electric fleet of anything, and we certainly won't have it for the amount of electricity demanded if we want to be anywhere close to the top in terms of AI.
I mean, here's how messed up it is here. In the late 80s, there was a proposition to put in a large hydroelectric dam in Tasmania.
That's where the devils come from.
At the time, they'd put an undersea cable from Victoria over to the island state, which had excess energy from Victoria being shipped all those miles onto the island state. And through that same cable, had they have built the dam where it was originally proposed to, it would have given Tasmania a more than 100-year access of cheap, clean electricity. But it was the environmentalist Greens Party that got in the way of it.
Oh, imagine that.
I mean, it could have given them energy and electricity independence, and they could have been exporting that energy back to mainland Australia for the benefit of Tasmanian taxpayers. But no, Bob Brown, who was then leader of the Greens Party, he and his bunch of pink-haired frill-neck lizards were chaining themselves to trees, protesting because it's going to flood a forest. Well, and this is the thing with a lot of this green energy bullshit. Yes, everyone says, "Oh, we've got to have this. We've got to have the windmills. We've got to have the solar farms, and so on." But don't you dare build that fucking thing in my backyard.
No. At the same time, the hypocrisy is unprecedented. No electricity. We need all the electricity. No electricity. We need all the electricity for a wonderful future.
There's a university campus a couple of miles down the road. They got a grant to hold on to some of their wild bushland as a carbon sink under a previous administration. All right, they got paid millions of dollars to not develop this block of land. Now they've gotten a grant for $1 million, and what do they do in the Green Energy Initiative? And what do? They cut it all down and put solar cells there.
Well, isn't that interesting?
Another stupid solar farm project was built near Melbourne International Airport, right on the approach to the longest runway, which gets all of the afternoon sun reflecting off the panels straight up into the eyes of the pilots of the approaching aircraft.
What a wonderful thing. What a wonderful thing. And with that, we're going to have to call this a wrap. Jack, thank you for being here tonight. If you have any kind of promo for a social site or anything like this, now is the time to do that. And I want to make sure that I show this one more time. Folks, please send a private Grumman Gulfstream 2 jet to pick up Jack Alexander and his family in order to spirit them away into the United States where they clearly belong. That would be very much appreciated. Jack, any final word, sir?
Actually, yes. Today here is Anzac Day, the day that we remember those that served in the military and those that fell. So to any of there may be a few Australian service people listening in the United States. Welcome home, diggers. Enjoy the day, and for those that have served alongside me in Allied forces, just say a prayer today for all the Australians that throughout the years have given their life in the defense of freedom.
And that's a wonderful thing. I missed the birthday of the U.S. Navy. I think it was last week. So happy birthday, U.S. Navy. Jack Alexander, thank you very kindly for being here. I'm going to have to exit stage right because that's the only way that I can exit. I certainly wouldn't exit stage left. I want to mention this. We'll get to my outro in just a moment. If you want to see or understand or witness some of the stories that I referenced today at bloviatingzeppelin.net, I will have a recap of this show and you will be able to play it back in podcast. Give me about an hour or two to be able to do that at bloviatingzeppelin.net. Also on my SHR Media Berserk, Bobcat, Saloon Rumble channel, when this show rewinds and I can post it, again, give me about another hour or two to be able to do that. The show links will be there. So the show links will be at bloviatingzeppelin.net, and the show links will be at the SHR Media Rumble channel under the Saloon. I've got my own little channel right there in the Saloon. Today is Thursday. My greatest thanks to Jack Alexander because he's a wonderful kind of guy. Tomorrow will be the Reaver of Common Sense. The Reaver of Common Sense, Jersey Joe, is on Monday and Fridays. If he's going to have a show, and I will talk to him tomorrow, it will begin at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, and 9 p.m. Eastern. If Jersey Joe chooses not to have a show tomorrow, then I will probably have a show myself, because if for no other reason, then I'm going to put this up on the stage. Look at all the stuff that I was not able to get to. And I want to tell you, quite frankly, I am foaming at the mouth to be able to get to all of that material and present it to you. There are so many great videos that I would love to be able to show to you. And the other thing is, I want to I bigfooted Rick Robinson's show this morning, and he said he may or may not have a show tomorrow morning. So if Rick Robinson does have a show, it is highly recommended. It is the Rick Robinson Show at KLRN Radio on X, Twitter, at KLRN Radio. And his shows run Tuesday through Friday. Go there and just see if he's going to have a show, because he's otherwise working on, I think, a radio play that they're going to be also performing on Friday. I don't have any more information about that, but if you go to at KLRN on radio on X, oh, hey, here we go. This is Rick. They can also hang out and watch us do Alice in Wonderland. There it is. Tomorrow, right here, they're going to be doing a radio play, Alice in Wonderland, tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. That's 5:30 p.m. Pacific. And there it is, right there. So, Rick Robinson, thanks for being here. Thanks for being in the chat room. Thanks for all your assistance. Thanks for running this live. On Monday, we've got more. Oh, wait. This just in. And the teletypes are clacking. That's not a really very convincing teletype sound. Rick says, yes, I will have a show tomorrow. I got my script run through and done. And for the show over at KLRN, there were 215 people watching tonight. Thanks to every one of you people who were doing that. And Cheetah says he had to trade in his Gulfstream and his Diamond Air DA62 that he kind of slums around in. And it's still in the shop. Otherwise, he would be happy to help. Well, thanks for the attempt on that, Cheetah. I greatly appreciate it. And with that, I ran a little late, but it's my show. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening and watching BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network and also at KLRN Radio, on the SHR Media YouTube channel, the SHR Media X, my X at BZ's Saloon. My ex, I kicked her to the curb in 1987, okay? Everybody needs a starter marriage, or maybe they don't. Don't do what I do, okay? Son of a biscuit eater. You guys, I am not the guy to follow. However, I will say this. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, also by Shure and Electro Voice microphones. This is the Arrakis mixer that I have, and I am also sponsored by Pratt & Whitney Dependable Engines, producing thrust you can trust. And thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I shall be concerting in less than about 10 minutes, very shortly, not far from here at all. Thanks to Jack Alexander for being here. Thanks to you for watching live and in podcast. Everybody, God bless. Take care. Be safe, all of you.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.